Travis Wayne Goodsell. This I found very interesting. If you are paying attention to my other videos, you know that on the 31st of March, I will be going to the federal courthouse with the motion for, let's see, how was I going to word it? Motion for final default judgment with entry of default. I think that's how I will do it. Combine them together into one, and then do an affidavit attachment with it, because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has committed crimes against me and you too, but mine were different and additional, and so because they won't leave me alone as a translator, and I was forced to go alone to the federal court to file a lawsuit against the church. And so the rest you can get caught up on now that you're fired from work with coronavirus, though apparently the majority of you are still working, who come to my site anyway. At least that's what it indicates, is that in the evening time, that's when my numbers boost back up. So you guys must not be stuck at home during the whole day, or you're doing stuff at home rather than searching YouTube and wait until you get home, or wait until the evening. But as you know, as Mormons, we're commanded 2 times in the Doctrine and Covenants to look for the signs of the coming of Christ. And so I've been obedient, and I've done that as I learned about astronomy and how to interpret signs, and made numerous discoveries during these last days, during the apocalypse even. And so what I found was what you'll see on the screen in front of you. Let me pull it up here for me. Whoops, wrong file. Captures? Yes, it should be captures. There's the list of all the buildings in the church, because I'm going to present in this final judgment a listing of all the assets of the church. And because my relief request was for everything of the church. Alright, so here we have Mars in conjunction with Saturn. Now Mars I've already identified as Nelson, Russell M. Nelson, believe it or not. Way back in February 2017, that's when I identified Nelson as Mars. And so I've been paying attention to how Mars is traveling across the heavens, and seeing what he does on Earth in comparison with what the heavens have already recorded what he is going to be doing. And there's some wow. And so if you haven't caught on, the church is wicked. It's in apostasy after murdering Joseph Smith. And so that's another reason why I needed to get into church history, was because I was having trouble figuring out Mars's next moves, because I was still thinking, well, maybe they just are not listening to God. No, it's much worse. So, and so on the 31st, Mars is in conjunction with Saturn. So Nelson is with Saturn. Now, you need to understand that Trump is Mercury, so he's not involved in this. And Venus is the members of the church, the Mormons. Didn't know that, did you, Mormons? And so Jupiter, he's the man-child that John talks about in Revelation chapter 12. Because he spends about a pregnancy period in each constellation before he moves to the next constellation and spends another pregnancy period in that one. And so Jupiter is the man-child, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the one to restore the throne. He is not Jesus. That's a Christian thing, and it's not supposed to be the Mormon thing, and I've gone over that. So, who then is Saturn? Saturn is the father of Jupiter. So he's more authoritative in that sense. So he has authoritative position, high stature. And then you have Mars, who is the religious leader of the apostate church, but nevertheless the religious leader. Jupiter is supposed to be the one to replace Nelson and Trump, to have the kingdom of God on earth. And so you have Mars with Saturn instead, which is a fatherly authoritative figure with the religious leader. And so what you have here is a government authority. And on the 31st, that's when I go in to the federal court and file the lawsuit against the church, for which the judges are to order judgment on my behalf. But you'll notice Saturn's with Mars, and you'll notice that they're at the almost near the mouth of the goat beast. What is the goat beast but the symbol of the inverted pentagram? And so thus Lucifer. And so we need a little more information, and so I thought I'd check on where the moon was located. The moon is at the feet of, let's see, it was Castor in Gemini. They're called Castor and Pollux. Those are the Greek names for them. But it goes back into Babylonian astronomy as well, as they had different names. Castor was Meshlamtiah, and Pollux was Lugal-Ira. And so they mean, so Castor, where the moon is the one who has arisen from the underworld. And remember your Latter-day Scriptures? What else is supposed to go on during this time period? I better eat my food before it gets cold. The dead shall rise from the grave. See what's going on here? It's a fulfillment of prophecy on the 31st of March. The dead shall rise from the grave. What's interesting is that in Babylonian theology or practice, the number 7 was considered a bad luck number. And so their Babylonian calendar of 7 days in a week, the seventh day was a bad luck day, and so it was forbidden to work on the seventh day. Wait, that's in the Bible. Yeah. Remember Daniel told the Jews, don't give in to the Babylonian culture, remain Jewish? Oops. And so yes, the Jews sort of adopted everything of the Babylonians and forgot their real history with the Egyptians. But guess which day the moon is in on the 31st? How do I do this? I'm trying to look on the screen rather than my hands. It's the seventh day on the 31st of March, the bad luck day. And so you have Mars and Saturn before the face of Lucifer, the goat beast constellation. And seventh day, bad luck. And so the moon is symbolic of religion. Mars is the religious leader. It's a bad luck day for Mars, as they are exposed of working with Lucifer. And who's coming along on the 31st to make that exposure happen? With an entry of default and a motion for a final default judgment. Yeah. So it's amazing how it works. And I found this out after I'd already had set it up for that. So, kind of cool stuff. Also, you might want to know that the Meshlamtea and Lugal Ira are titles for a major Babylonian god called Nergal. Guess what he is symbol of? Plague and pestilence. What's going on right now? A plague of coronavirus, and people are dying. And what happens when people die? Pestilence. All sorts of bugs and maggots and all sorts of stuff feed off of the dying flesh. And thus the king of the underworld, death. Awesome stuff. Just awesome. So I do need to update my Book of Signs that I had published way back in 2017 before more signs came out, but also include more information about interpreting Gemini, I believe. I may have put this information in there, but I may not have fully grasped it at the time. So, cool stuff going on as we are in the end of the world. Are you watching for the signs? Are you looking for the true Christ? Not a Christ that false prophets are telling you of?